To give a quick introduction, I'm Silver. I mostly post art-related things, but I sometimes do video essays. If you don't know Origins of Olympus, and let's face it, you don't, Origins of Olympus is a Minecraft roleplay made by the Origins group way back in 2019, based on the Percy Jackson book series. And if you don't know the premise of that, basically the gods of Greek and other mythologies are real, and their children, the demigods, go to summer camp and deal with monsters, prophecies, etc. And I've been putting this one off for a little bit now, mostly because Xylo, unlike Ryan's video, I consider Season 1 to actually be pretty important to his character, because while Brian spent most of Season 1 being possessed, Xylo actually had some pretty big character development moments. So I resigned to the fate of watching everything from Season 1 to at least the end of Season 2, maybe a bit of Season 3 if I feel like it. So buckle up, it's gonna be a long one. Season 1 starts off pretty strong with Xylo on his horse Shadow, running from a Minotaur, presumably on the way to camp, and he gets bailed out by a volley of flaming meteors. I bring this scene up because it actually sets up quite a few things for the character. Anyway, we're then introduced to the Camp Half-Blood of the series, and main setting, Camp Oasis, also referred to as the Oasis of Demeter, which actually implies a bit about the world building, but I digress. Xylo is introduced as a son of Apollo, but as the series progresses, we learn he never actually got a sign from his godly parents. Apollo being his father was just something he had assumed because he was good at archery. If you've read the Heroes of Olympus series, this is a little actually how Frank started when he was first introduced, which I think is pretty neat, but moving on, I need to discuss the camp counselor, Miss K. So, Miss K, yeah? Snake Lady, keeper of the Oracle of Delphi. She also hates Xylo's guts because she doesn't like Apollo. He killed her snake mom or something. Actually, she dislikes all sons of Apollo. Or daughters. Just children of Apollo in general. And there's also a prophecy from the Oracle that'll become relevant later on. Yeah, and later Xylo wins the Trial Berries, aka Battle Royale between all the campers. He earns himself 3 questions for the Oracle. See, unlike in Percy Jackson, the Oracle isn't just some person who recites prophecies, but more or less a all-knowing eyeball who speaks very cryptically. And it's almost kind of funny how Xylo's first question for the Oracle is in fact, why does everyone hate me? And some other questions as well. The next significant event would probably be meeting the other son of Apollo, Austin, a gold-hearted idiot who can't really read a room, but he's kind of a part of another prophecy, and he's also pretty good with a bow. And of course, Miss K is a little upset that there are now 2 sons of Apollo, so naturally she sends them on a death quest, which they don't die from. One thing I kind of like is how Xylo and Austin match each other's energy. It's honestly kind of wholesome considering what comes next, but more on this later. Anyway, like any other demigod, Xylo starts getting visions in his sleep, in which he sees the underworld and his brother, who is stabbing him in the back. Eventually, the visions get so bad, he attempts to break into the Oracle room hoping for an answer, so he steals the only key to the Oracle room, someone's eyeball, specifically the eyeball of Miss K's mother. Unfortunately, the Oracle gives him no answer aside from, "You cannot escape your fate," and "Your brother will be your downfall." Yeah, I think he could have figured that one on his own. And of course, he gets caught by Miss K. And yeah, Miss K still hates the Apollo brothers, so she sends them on yet another death quest, this time to retrieve a sword from the Cave of Erebus. However, during this quest, things happen, and Xylo's horse dies. It's quite sad watching the poor guy cry out to Apollo or any other god who may be watching, only asking one thing, fix him. And I do like how, even though a lot of other characters in the scene blame Austin for it, and for being a general idiot, Xylo doesn't. I think it shows a level of maturity from the character, even relatively early on. But what's really cool is what comes next, something I refer to as the banishment arc. Xylo is still having visions, more so frightening that he sets his cabin on fire in his sleep, which causes him to be banished and chased out of camp. I think this arc does a really good job in making you feel bad for the character. I mean, no home, no horse, barely any friends. Well, barely any friends is a small exaggeration because he does have some friends in camp. They help sneak him back in, only for them and Xylo to find out the Oracle is gone. That's right, Miss K decided camp wasn't safe for the Oracle anymore, so she took the Oracle and left. Afterwards, Xylo revisits the Cave of Erebus, that's where his horse is buried, and he finds his horse, Shadow, has come back to life in a more zombified manner. Shadow also just creates a path showing where Kay had gone. I guess dying really does come with a few perks. Also, Shadow can just, create light now. It's an ability he shows off later. Although they kind of forget about this later on. Anyways, they find the Oracle at a temple in the middle of nowhere, and not gonna lie, I feel like a secure room that can only be accessed using someone's eyeballs is just a little bit safer than in a temple that doesn't even have a locked door, but I digress. Kay encounters Xylo, which she immediately accuses of coming to kill the Oracle. They fight, he cuts her wings off with the same sword that Kay herself made him get, which I think is pretty poetic. After that, Kay is knocked to the floor. They finally have a talk and clear the air. Xylo reveals he wasn't really a son of Apollo, but has come to realize that Hades is the father. And after a good long talk about how he doesn't want to see Kay send other children of Apollo on more death quests, Xylo is unbanished from the camp. Next important thing that happens this season is probably Aphrodite's ball. I'll be referring to it as prom, however, because that's basically what it is. Hosted by Brian and Bree, the two children of Aphrodite. Unfortunately for Xylo, they're both possessed in some way, and they both have decided they want to take him as their date. Completely separate of each other, of course. Tainted Bree is the first to ask him, by virtue of being friends with Austin, his brother, However, a evil Brian has a hypnotization ability called Charm Speak, which if you've read Heroes of Olympus, you'll know that's a Aphrodite kid thing, which allows a person to make another person do what they want just by speaking to them. Brian's Charm Speak is also amplified quite a bit from having a magic evil sword that's possessing him. The sword is called the Seductive Rose, or just the Rose for short, by the way. So, while Xylo was distracted, evil Brian kind of just walks up to him, stabs him with the sword before telling Xylo to go to prom with him. When prom comes, Bree's pretty upset, so she makes a love potion and gives it to Xylo, just so Brian doesn't get what he wants. Of course, things happen. Xylo somehow gets voted prom king with Bree as prom queen, so now evil Brian's pissed, and he storms out. And not even an hour later, Bree's good and evil sides split in two essentially and have a battle right in the middle of prom. Then they just run out and leave, essentially. The aftermath of the ball on the next day results in Xylo confronting Bree, which causes Austin to run to her defense, which causes a fight between the two former brothers. Honestly, it's kind of sad knowing that this is basically the last time they see each other until Season 2. Okay, so while the trial of Poseidon is significant in solidifying the friendship between Xylo and his roommate Mitch, it also kind of displays Xylo's people-pleasing tendencies. I'm going to skip it because this script is getting already quite long, and I haven't even made Season 2 yet. Okay, remember Evil Brian? He's even more evil now. So evil that Mario went on a quest to become stronger so he could stand up to him. Miss K is doubtful, however, so she goes to check up on Brian to prove a point. Now, Brian is currently stationed at a floating island near camp, but Kay can get there pretty easily with her wings. It takes Mario and Xylo a bit, though, since they have to run all the way to the stables to get Pegasi. And when they arrive, evil Brian stabs Kay, just cuz, and flies away, all while antagonizing Mario, might I add. Mario is a son of Zeus, so he is generally pretty powerful, and he swears he'll give Brian what's coming for him. Good for you, Mario. Anyway, Xylo insists on going to the underworld so that maybe he can bring back her soul, and he does successfully come out of the underworld with her and a complete sword of Hades. Yeah, so remember that sword he got from the Cave of Erebus? That was in fact an incomplete version of the sword of Hades. When it is complete, though, it can send things to the Tartarus with a single cut, which actually is a small reference to the Percy Jackson books. I remember a sword like that in one of the spin-off BJA books. Anyways, using said sword, he manages to send most of the Titans back to Tartarus. Speaking of, did I mention that Evil Brian released the Titans? Because he did, alongside two other guys. Afterwards, Hades himself shows up. He's not very happy with Xylo. Xylo feels he's a little entitled to some praise, though, considering he just sent the Titans back to the pits of Tartarus. And in a fit of anger, he actually stabs Hades with the sword of Hades, which he does freak out about afterwards, because, what do you mean I just sent my father, Lord of the Underworld, to the same place I just sent all the Titans? Real quick, he gets back to camp, says his goodbyes, which is honestly kind of sad. This was a really good scene from Season 1 in my opinion. And yeah, I guess I've avoided talking about it long enough. The other son of Hades at camp, a fellow that goes by the name Brick. Don't think Brick got enough validation from his parents as a kid, so he's mad compensating for it by his want to be the strongest, even though he doesn't show up to any of the camp events to prove it. And Brick, at the very last, confronts Xylo, hoping to prove who's strongest once and for all. Guess they clash for a little, then Xylo gives Brick the sword of Hades and plays into his ego. So once again, Xylo gets stabbed, but this time he's sent to the underworld to make sure the Titans get sealed. So overall, even though Season 1 largely had a lower production value than Season 2 and 3 by comparison, I still really enjoy it. The smaller scale makes it actually a little more charming for me. But holy crap, I just talked for 11 minutes. I hope Season 2 section of this video is not as long. So, for reference, this season takes place about 1 year after Season 1, so it's a new summer. Enter Recaro, a far-flung demon from Mercury, Sunset, and thinks he's a unicorn. The biggest twist of this series is that he actually was a unicorn. After falling to Earth, Recaro is then sent to the underworld where he meets the main guy, Xylo, who very quickly realizes Recaro, son of an Egyptian deity, doesn't belong in the Greek underworld. But fortunately for them, Xylo only needs one more fight before he's allowed to leave. It's his brother. Remember Austin? They have to fight. So once again, two may enter, one may leave. It's quite sad, considering last time they saw each other, they had a fight. And played during the fight was probably the saddest rendition of Dr. Seuss I've ever heard. Actually, it goes from a duet in Season 1 to a solo act. Come on, guys. One fish, two fish should not be going this hard. And considering the video isn't about Austin, son of Apollo, you can probably guess who won this duel. And so, with a heavy heart, Xylo decapitates someone who he considered his brother. But hey, at least he gets to leave the underworld with Recaro and a few others. I really like how Xylo's character is done after getting out of the underworld. He's been scarred by spending almost a year down there, and it really shows. He's a lot more jaded, generally more hostile, especially towards not evil Brian. Even Nad, who's stated to be able to sense other people's emotions and whatnot, admitted he sensed a whole mess of negativity off of him. Not to mention the second trial of Ares. I don't think he even remembers how not to fight like it's life or death. And he even gets a sort of PTSD reaction afterwards. The voice acting really sells it for me too, and the overall production quality is a lot higher in Season 2. Oh, and I should probably get back to Recaro.
We've been out all day, man.
Uh-oh.
Dad! Oh.
Shoes guy!
What?
Hello, Solus.
Yeah, after like a day of being in camp, Recaro starts referring to Xylo as Earth Dad. Later, he gets promoted to literally just Dad. Now, he initially rejects the idea, but as the season goes on, he gradually warms up to it, and really even embraces it at the end of the season. That's actually what I love about the character in Season 2. It's the gradual character growth, from how he starts off as a very tense individual, ready to pull his sword out at the drop of a hat, to a more relaxed, albeit a bit paranoid person. The rest of the important stuff can be broken up into several arcs, and from here on out, I'm only going to cover the really important parts, or else the script is going to become even longer. I mentioned this arc because the two children of Anubis, Inpu and Magnus, are important, and, everyone dies. No, really, everyone. The entire population of the world. Except for, like, Xylo and Inpu. Don't worry, though, because the dying thing, that gets reverted, and it was all okay. Except for Inpu's arm. But again, don't worry, he gets a new one. So I guess nothing's too permanent from this arc. Well, nothing except Xylo's 56 new stab wounds. It's not as scary as it sounds. Sure, for one, it starts off with character Mania being possessed by a demon, But Xylo manages to do a counter-possession and chase out the demon with the help of Nad. But this has the small side effect that his spirit is now stuck inside of a girl until he can get a further assistance. I mean, what can I say? I guess it takes a real man to be best girl. I mostly mentioned this arc because we get verbal confirmation that Xylo was in fact an orphan who fended for himself before coming to camp. Also, they get the Mirror of Amaterasu, which is strong enough to contain a demon. Well, I guess it's time for the real meat and potatoes of this video. I almost want to make another dedicated video for Set. Remember Ricaro? Called Xylo Dad, called this other guy Cal Mom, and honestly quite a few brothers and uncles. Which is why when Cal, a reincarnation of the god Khonsu, saw a timeline of Set possessing Ricaro, everyone was worried. Actually, Cal and a few others tried to keep it a secret. Because supposedly when Ricaro becomes upset, that'll provide an opening for Set to take over his body. But this becomes a self-revealing prophecy when Ricaro finds out anyway and gets possessed because of the secret keeping. Actually, I'm noticing that possession is a bit of a common reoccurrence in this series, isn't it, huh? Anyways, Xylo and a few others try to fight Set, but as it happens, it's quite tough to overpower a primordial deity of chaos, especially when said primordial deity manages to get the jump on you. A comment I saw in the first episode of this arc points out how Xylo is constantly pulling out the sword that Ricaro gave him, almost like he's trying to hold on to whatever piece of Ricaro he has left. Considering Xylo's first choice for battle is usually the incomplete sword of Hades, this comment likely hit the nail right on the head. Later, Cal and Xylo frantically look for a way to defeat Set. 1, because Ricaro's like their kid, and 2, because everyone else already called dibs on all the other villains. But then again, if anyone has to deal with a literal god, then let it be the strongest fighter in camp and the guy who can manipulate time. Going off script a little bit, but the real victim in this series is Duran. Poor guy is just a baker, and he has to deal with the concept of doom. How does anyone fight that? Tangents aside, Cal being forced to do Set's bidding is probably not the best help in the war effort either. Regardless though, they managed to find the Blade of Osiris, a blade that can kill gods. And so, Xylo meets with Set to have a showdown. After Xylo manages to launch off that counter-possession spell to kick Set out of Ricaro's body, and then trap Set in the Mirror of Amaterasu. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This was probably Set's perfect defeat. Not only does it include parts from each arc up until this point, such as the lightning amulet that Mario gave Xylo to help survive the barrage of lightning, the Book of the Dead, which helped him escape death, just barely. Momiji even gave Xylo enough power to actually fight back. And even though the dagger failed, it was Cal's improved time manipulation that concealed the Blade of Osiris till the last second. And finally, the mirror which trapped him. And did I mention that Set is my favorite villain from the series? This arc really does solidify Cal, Xylo, and Ricaro as one family unit. This is probably also where the Cal x Xylo ship gained a lot of popularity. Makes sense, those two are surprisingly still single, and they are mom and dad, so... S tier ship. Alright, finale time. A while back, Xylo actually stole the key to Tartarus from Hades, so naturally Hades is pretty mad and has been sending the Furies / the Kindly Ones after him. So he goes down to the underworld to settle things once and for all. And before he knew it, Xylo was once again in the arena with his brother. Don't worry, it's a different brother this time. But Hades is not in fact Hades, but Loki pretending to be Hades. I mean, not to say they weren't signs.
Do we have here? Not very often I get guests in my palace.
It's been some time, Hades. Some might say too long.
And who might you be exactly? Am I supposed to know who you are?
I suppose it has been many years, and my appearance has changed considerably since we last met. It's fine, I'm not hurt or anything.
Come. Spit it out. Remind me of who you might be.
I'm rather shocked you don't remember one of your own demons. You gave me a second go at life. My father, Ares.
Ah, Ares. What an interesting man he always was. Of course you're his son!
You'd totally forgotten.
Well, it has been some years since I saw you last. Easily mistaken.
Right. Why does he sound like he has no idea who I am?
And then Loki opened the Titan Gate, which is why he needed the Titan Key. So real quick, after sending Loki even deeper into Tartarus with the Sword of Hades, Xylo goes off to hopefully close the Titan gate before the Titans actually escape. Without the key, Xylo actually has to draw in his own energy to close it. Luckily, he's successfully able to close it, but now he is dying. This is also a really good scene from Season 2, or maybe one of the best scenes from this series in general. You see Xylo's barely hanging on to dear life. Then he sees the ghosts of these two characters who try to comfort him in these final moments. They specifically say, "Our friends will be okay without you." Then Xylo kind of drops this sad monologue admitting he feels like he never got a chance to actually live. He says it himself, he's not ready to die, which I think is another sign of his character growth, considering he spends a lot of the series ready to lay down his life at the drop of a hat, and yet when his time actually does come, he's not ready. Of course, after this speech, it'd be way too sad if he were actually to die here, and so the ghosts give him a hand and help him survive. Xylo is actually handed a position of authority in the underworld by Hades, the actual Hades, but Xylo declines in favor of going back home, which is honestly very in character for him. I know a lot of fans at the time wanted him to just become a ruler of the underworld, but I think it's a lot more fitting for him to go back home instead. He's done a lot of fighting, he deserves a break. And then it plays this montage of the finale for all the other important characters. This right here is honestly almost a perfect ending for Origins of Olympus. As much as I enjoyed aspects of Season 3, like the graveyard or Xylo meeting his mom for the first time, I'm just a little confused why they decided to actually make a Season 3, especially since it never finished. Okay, now for the final portion of the video. So after all I said, is it really surprising that this guy is one of my favorites from the series? And I dare say that he was almost a perfect character, especially for the medium of MCRPs. Keyword almost. Like most characters, he has his writing flaws. The first one that comes to mind for me is his plot hole with Giles. He originally talks about Giles like he's only heard about him in the underworld, but when they have a conversation, it seems like they know each other. But then again, Giles' whole character is a plot hole, so I'm not gonna let it sour my view of the character. While I didn't go over Season 3 of Origins of Olympus, mostly because it's unfinished, never to be completed outside of fanfic, I thought I might as well use this section to include some aspects I liked from Season 3. Well, aspects that relate to Xylo, the character I'm talking about. For one, I like the expanded dynamic between Xylo and Recaro, with Xylo fully embracing his role as dad this time around. And I think it's a cute detail how Xylo and Mario stayed in contact even 5 years after Season 2. For another, I like how it is actually said that Xylo regularly goes to the graveyard to leave freshly cut flowers. He also meets his mom in Season 3, like I mentioned. I do appreciate that they made her Child of Nike, Goddess of Victory. That gave him a reason for why he manages to win so often. That's pretty cool, if you ask me. Shout out to the dating episode, though. That was very funny. Peak, if I'm being honest. They played into the ships very well. Speaking of his mom, though, they also gave him a reason for why he has such terrible luck with finding a date. Apparently, Aphrodite just straight up cursed his mother, who passed the curse down to him. And I'm sure there are other cool things in Season 3, but those are the ones that stuck out to me. So, as much as I like Xylo's character in Origins of Olympus, he's technically my second favorite from the series. My most favorite character from the series would actually be Brandine, even if he is technically and more objectively flawed in terms of writing. So, I'll be making a video on him next. I've also linked the series from Xylo's Season 1 and 2's perspective in the description, if this video interests you in that series. But if you've enjoyed the video, consider subscribing or support me on Ko-Fi, which is linked in the description. I spent way too much time on this video.